everyone. Welcome back to What They Can't See. My name's Paige DiTomasso, and I'm here with my co-host, Mike Mello. We both are two social workers living with chronic conditions, and we are talking about the things that people can't always see. Today, we get into hesitancy and insecurity, and we kind of dissect it a little bit and talk about how we move through those challenges and how we can start to see ourselves as empowered human beings thinking in abundance. I hope you enjoy. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not medical advice, as we are not licensed medical professionals. Please consult your healthcare provider for personalized medical guidance. I heard you say that everything in you wants to put your energy towards building this business. You know you can build it. You're excited about it. You're networking. You're meeting new people, getting your name out there. And you know that you could do that. So, how do we follow? And this is a big question for anybody. It doesn't even matter if you have a chronic condition or not. How do you follow the voice, the whisper, the desire, the call, the calling, the vocation, whatever you call it? How do we follow that and trust that that is the direction we're supposed to go and that that is the right move, no matter what that temporarily might mean? So, we might feel a little bit of discomfort in that in term of maybe finances, or we might feel discomfort in a relationship, or like whatever it might be. But how do we follow the call to what we know we're supposed to be doing?
That's a loaded question there, Paige.
It's really just out there. I mean, Fred, chime in. Mike, chime in. That's been a big topic on my mind lately. How do we discern, right? So discernment is, we know our options. How do we discern and decide where we're going to put our energy and why it's important there, right? How do we make that decision? And how do we move confidently in the direction that we know we're supposed to move in with faith, full faith, and hope that, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing? It is a big question. And
no, I appreciate that. It's quite the challenge, because truly, I don't know, because I'm there right now, right? I'm in the in between and trying right now to figure out how to follow that calling, because not just in my life, but I'm sure a lot of our listeners' lives, I'm sure in your life, there are so many factors to be considered at any point in time, right? I'll give you an example. Moving down to Charleston, right? Jobs. That's number one, right? We have a wedding in April. Right? Which is exciting. I said that's exciting with not a lot of excitement in my voice, but I am very excited.
I know, you're so excited. I'm so excited.
Jobs, transitioning from being close to family, and I'll be close to my brother and niece and sister-in-law down there. My health, the fact that we need to drive 13 and a half hours, meeting new people, making new friends, finances, all the things, right? That's obviously a huge life transition, a huge life experience that we're going to be going through. And so I think when you ask the question of how do we follow what we are called to do, this is kind of me just speaking out loud right now, but it's letting the pieces fall into place naturally as they come and not forcing it. Because I think so often we can get caught up with timelines and ideals that we want. And if we are too hyper fixated on those timelines and too hyper fixated on the what we want, then you're forcing the issue instead of letting it come to you. And I think the same can be true with chronic conditions, where if you try and force different things to happen in your life, force being in remission, force, I don't know, just different things, then those things oftentimes don't happen. They don't fall into place.
Yeah. I don't think any plan I've ever made has ever panned out the way that I thought it would. And then I look back and realize, and this is important, right? When we look back, we have to look back with kind eyes that allow us to identify what we've learned or identify what fruit did come from that, right? So I think that's another super important point. But yeah, right? I mean, you just spoke on so many factors. It's like, oh, it feels like getting hit by a car or something, because it's like so much pressure to put on yourself all at one time. And today has its worries of its own. Tomorrow will have its worries of its own. So it's a really interesting topic, because yeah, you're right, is with chronic conditions, the more we sit in, this isn't going the way I want it to go. And I'm talking like lack mindset. So any negatives, right? I thought I'd be better by now. I can't do this. Or if you're constantly thinking like, what if this happens? What if that happens? Right. And we're planning out every scenario. That lack mindset, meaning that we're always thinking, we're kind of speaking in that the negative, not meaning like pessimistic necessarily, the negative like lack way. So we're saying a lot of can'ts, nots, won'ts, or I should have, or putting ourselves down, right? Those kinds of narratives, as opposed to the abundant mindset that we talk about, that is important, of what do I have right now? What have I learned? What value has come from some of these experiences? And so that energy, right? So when we talk about, Mikey, you moving down to South Carolina or getting married, you could sit here all day and have certain worries about that journey. Right? Like you could, right? I mean, we can sit here and talk it all through, and I'm not trying to preach here. It's just more of like, is it worth, right? Like when we're dealing with a chronic condition, when we're dealing with a life transition, when we're coping, when we're, whatever it is, should we be sitting in the possibilities and planning every last detail? Or should we have an idea, follow what we're called as best we can? Does that make sense? Like to the best of our knowledge, and like be okay with that. And again, like everybody's at a different point in their journey. So I'm not saying anyone's wrong for anything. It's just a question to reflect on. Where am I putting my energy? Who am I allowing to take my energy that might not deserve it?
Right. Yeah. And I think at present, which I think, some people might also feel, is I'm getting pulled in two different directions of wanting to be present, in having times where I'm able to be present, in appreciating what I have, in appreciating the things that have come from the effort that I've put in, and the worry, concern, anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, whatever it is, you name it, of the future, of this like looming kind of, fear maybe. And so when you're pulled in both directions, it's like some days I'm feeling great and I'm, feeling energized and I feel like I'm putting the energy into the right places. And then there's some times where my energy is getting sucked away and I just am feeling overwhelmed, feeling frustrated. And I think the same is true with chronic conditions, where there are some days when we are feeling really great that we're like, wow, like I'm really appreciating my course of treatment and where I'm at, and I feel really good. And then there's some days where, maybe you have some more symptoms or flare-ups, etc., and you have this overwhelming, looming feeling of, well, what's next? What's to come? And constantly being pulled in both directions. So I guess, Paige, a question for you is, how do you navigate that? How do we navigate that?
I think that I feel like we can loop this all the way back to, you know, uh, trusting our body and our judgment, right? Trusting our judgment of ourself. Here we go. So trusting that we do have the discernment of meeting ourselves where we're at today. So where am I today? Today, maybe I overdid it yesterday. And today I'm feeling the repercussion. For me, that's might be that I'm having a lot more auras, I'm a lot more sensitive. Maybe there was an argument I had yesterday or a stressful event, something that pushed me out of my comfort zone a little too much. And so the next day or a couple hours later, I'm feeling the effects of it through my body, right? So I think we have to recognize that not every day is going to be our best effort day where we're feeling like 110%. And then, so allowing ourselves to have that day, that's important, I think. Allowing ourselves to have that day and not judge it as bad, judge it as not judge it as bad, not even judge it really. Just let it be. Like, let it be the day that it is. And say, what's one thing I can do today that's going to help empower me? That's that would be one tidbit that I'd say is helpful. Like, I had a day, like, it was probably a couple weeks back where I overdid it at the gym and then not knowing it, right? It wasn't like I intentionally tried to harm myself. I just happened to overdo it a little bit and a lot of it. And I ended up a lot of it. And then I ended up on the couch for the next 2 days with a lot of seizure activity going on. So I wasn't driving, whatever. And I could have chosen to like stay there and sit in that and say, this sucks so much. My life is I'm a failure. I did it to myself again. And I've been there. So if you're there, don't beat yourself up for it. I've been there where I've been like, this is the worst thing ever. And I'm kind of giggling because it's true. Like when you're in that moment, it feels like the end of the freaking world. Like it really feels so big and heavy. I'm not saying that I don't still have days like that. It's just, now it's like, okay, today is the day that it is. How can I just do one thing today that reminds me of who I am as a person, right? Like not my identity in my condition, but for me, I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a chapter in my book today. And I may have already shared this on a podcast, but I just took out my notes app and I texted, hey, meeting you here on a bad day, kind of, quote, quote, right? And it was awesome because I was like, you know what? I did something good today that helped me reminded me of, the fact that I can do something good on a day that doesn't feel so good. So I just allowed that day to be what it was. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the other aspect of it is, for me, I've realized now that I've gone through 2 years of everything being too much, like for my system to handle. It's, my stamina is low. You name the label. Like it's been in my head. You can't do this today because this might happen. Oh, well, I don't know if you should participate here, or, it's probably not a good idea to go on a full walk today. Maybe you should just do half a loop. I mean, the simplest of things, right? Throughout the past 2 years. Oh, I don't know. Like, if you don't get down on this medicine, like you might harm your child in the future. I mean, there's been some great, like some crazy, I don't mean crazy. I mean, some very impactful statements and claims over the past couple of years that have really challenged what I believe about myself and how I've lived my life. So when all of a sudden someone is saying, well, we ran the genetics. Look, I don't have a genetic gene for epilepsy. The only way that my child would be able to have epilepsy is if they had the exact same cysts in their brain with the same factors and the same stressors, right? Like all the things would have to align. So it's a very small chance. other than the fact that I'm on epilepsy medication. So that increases the chance just a bit more than if you don't have epilepsy, right? So, but I go to genetics and they come back and they say, well, you have like a 35 to 40% chance that your child might have this. I'm like, in what world, lady? Like, and so
Yeah.
I went back to like my other doctors and I'm like, is this true? Like, I don't want to put my child at risk for this. If it's that big, I thought it was like 3 to 4%. Like I didn't
Yeah.
think that. And they all came back and said, that's not accurate. That's maybe in their experience with their patients, but that's not an accurate statement. So my point in saying that is that there's a lot of noise and there's been so much over the past 2 years that has just poked and prodded at what I believe I can do and how I can do it. Does that make sense? So
100%.
yeah, so I think like to grab from this is that when you get poked and prodded enough with comments of, well, I don't know if we should do that, or hey, maybe you should take it easy today. You've kind of been going full throttle. Maybe you should, rest, or I think you might need a nap, or maybe, how much have you been hydrating? And they're all valid questions, right? They're all good points. But the more we just poke and poke at these beliefs that I can't just exist and believe in myself, the more I'm going to feel like I can't do something, right? The more I'm going to believe like, oh, or the more I'm going to hesitate. That's our word for today, right? The more I'm going to hesitate. So like, then it becomes, okay, Paige, you got this job as a high school soccer coach. It's awesome.
Mhm.
But like, can you handle 2 hours of practice every day of the week? Can you
Mhm.
coach? Are you going to be able to stay focused? Like, what if you have a seizure on the field? I've never had a seizure on the field, but all of this for the past 2 years has kind of shifted the way that I believe I can function in the world. So that's why it's important for me when hesitancy arrives, I can identify it and I need to challenge it because a lot of it is just a lot of lies and a lot of things that I've believed over the past 2 years because they've just shown up. And it's not my fault, but how did I feed them and how am I going to choose to move forward?
I love
Rant
that.
over.
There's a lot there. And I wrote some things down because I want to address some of them because they were really good points. The first thing that I want to address, because I think it's really important, especially with chronic conditions. And I think it relates to what you were saying about like the genetic testing and being told 30 to 40%, et cetera. In a different but similar way, my GI doc previous told me that my middle name was going to be inflammation, essentially. Like my middle name was going to be, it's called cuffitis, which is like the inflammation of like that little area where they reconnected my tubing. He literally told me that like my middle name is going to be that.
Jaw on the ground.
And similar reaction. I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean by that? And a lot of things ended up, transpiring from that, where I got a different GI doc, and it kind of felt like he was on the way out and was just kind of like, it is what it is. Like, there's not much more I can do for you because I'd seen him for a while, whatever. And that was something that I would refuse to accept. I refuse to accept that my middle name is just going to be inflammation. Like, it's a pretty severe comment to make to someone that's been dealing with a chronic condition for many years, and that like, well, for the rest of your life you're just going to be dealing with inflammation. Like that to me wasn't fair. And so when I sought out, yeah, when I sought out different doctors and stuff, at least I got some more hope that like they would try something new. And sure enough, 5-6 months after seeing this naturopath, my inflammatory markers are down. So it's like proving that wrong,
Yay!
because it's one of those things that, which I appreciate you said, like there's a lot of noise. And this is in life. There's a lot of noise everywhere. People that are going to tell you you can't do it, people that are going to challenge, what you want or what you do. People are going to challenge the ideas that you have because people don't have anything better to do than to challenge those things. And so, I think balancing that is something that I've really come to learn and something that's, important to work through. Because if I just accepted that my middle name was going to be inflammation and I believed that, that's probably what would happen.
Yes.
Like I would just accept that it is what it is. And I would just continue on the course of treatment that I was doing and nothing would change. But no, instead, I refused to accept that, decided to do something about it. And I feel so much better now than I did in the past 2, 3, 4 years that I'd seen this GI doc that I was going through the same course of action. And it was a different approach that we went through, different things that he wanted to try, and it's working, right? And a lot of it, I think, comes from the belief that it can work, and it is working. I think the same is true even when building a business or in a career, right? Like being a male social worker is not the most desirable thing for many.
Well, there aren't any men.
There aren't, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people question, like, oh, you're going to social work? Like, be a therapist? Oh, okay. Like, well, how are you going to afford a lifestyle? Right? Like, how are you going to, like, what's your career going to look like?
That's not abundant, is it? That's not the language of abundance at all.
No.
Coming from those people, not you. Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? The noise.
Yeah. And from the beginning, I knew exactly what I was in this field to do. And that's help people, serve people. And I refused to accept that it had to be done a certain way. It has to be done in a way where you're just doing community work in an agency that's going to burn you out. I refuse to accept that. And so that's where I started my business, so I can be my own boss, right? So I can grow it to a point where I'm not accepting this lack mindset, where, I'm challenging the narrative that, a men's mental health provider could be successful and have abundance in their life.
Needed.
Mm-hmm.
So needed. This brings us into a whole new topic at some point we'll have to address. Yes. Like when you meet, when resistance comes, and this is also part of hesitancy though, like when resistance comes, when you start doing something new, innovative, right? Like there's like you opening your own company that, is meant, you're a man. There's a reason that I think clients would benefit better with you than with me. If there are men who need guidance in a certain way or a certain aspect, or they're dealing with a chronic condition, speaking to another man can be the best resource for them. And so there's so even though you're in a quote, like minority of social work, because there aren't many men in the field, you are invaluable in that way. So you're going to meet resistance. And so hesitancy may come with that, right? Where you have to then lift yourself up and remind yourself exactly what you just said.
Yeah. And I think it transcends into different areas of our life. For example, our chronic condition, right? Like we are not medical professionals, and we're going to put that out there, and we say that all the time. So, take our experiences and our words for what they are, but it's not fact. And not like you shouldn't listen to exactly what we have to say medically or anything, whatever. Put that disclaimer out there. Far too often, and I have experienced this, and I think this could be a whole other topic in and of itself. My experience with doctors in the field hasn't been one that's been great. When I was first diagnosed, I went to, I'm not going to name the hospital, but I went to a certain hospital that I saw maybe 10 different providers, that everybody asked me the same exact questions. Nobody really figured out a different course of action and continued on the same track that I was going on for over a year, and nothing changed. I then was told early on that we're going to need to take out your colon. I'm like, screw that. So then I changed doctors. And sure, shit, they were right, but like that's a whole other thing.
But second opinions aren't a bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Exactly. And I think I'm trying to be very careful with the way that I say
You
this.
got this.
Advocating for yourself is one of the most important things I think you can do when you have a chronic condition, or any condition for that matter. I think it's the single most important thing that you can do, because there were countless, countless times where I was really sick and I was unable to call the doctor. My parents had to, and they had to advocate and, burst through the lines of, the reception to, can you get put on hold? And, oh, we'll forward along your message to the doctor, and had to continuously advocate for me. And I've had to do the same for myself, especially now in my more adult years where I, go to the doctor on my own. But if I didn't continue to advocate for myself, and in this case, when I was told, like, your middle name is going to be inflammation, then I might still be in that same spot. Maybe I could be even worse. I could have, let these symptoms get to a point that's even worse, but I decided to do something about it. And I want to encourage our listeners to not strike your doctor. Like, don't all of a sudden go find a different doctor. Like, if you're on a course of treatment that you feel like is fair for yourself, do that. But if it's going in a direction that you feel like isn't helping, seek out additional help. Like, seek out additional doctors, get a second opinion, try something new. Because you never know what other options there might be that could help change the course of your condition. And so, I don't know, that was kind of ranty, but
No, I think that's a great point. And you're right. Like, we aren't medical doctors or professionals, but you and I have both seeked out multiple opinions, multiple doctors, specialists. And specifically, you've done a lot of the naturopath stuff now. Like, there are other things out there that aren't mainstream Western medicine, right? So definitely, yeah. Speaking up for your own symptoms, like, we've both had our fair share of negative experiences with doctors, where whether they haven't been responsive or they've told us things that aren't true about ourselves, we have to be our own best cheerleader, right? That's what advocate means in my book. Like, cheer yourself on and stand up for yourself. Like, you are worth more than what we're sometimes told we're worth. So whether that's seeking a doctor or whether that's having a more abundant mindset and challenging the hesitancy, right? There's this there is a need for you to be your best advocate, your best cheerleader. And it's funny because we're social workers. So, like, our job is to cheer people on, like, as a challenge. I mean, more than that, but like, really, like, we love our clients so much. We cheer them on all the time. I know you do that, Mikey. So, like, as much as we challenge them and help people, with their coping, all that kind of stuff, we're also cheering them on to be their own best advocate. But it's kind of funny because I've reflected on this last week that sometimes I can be everybody else's best cheerleader, but not my own. And so I think that's something that, and maybe that's why I'm in this profession. Like, maybe sometimes I think we all have a way of kind of coming to something that is sensitive to our own hearts, or maybe uh, weaknesses and strengths. But, that is so important, is for us to be able to cheer ourselves on. So when we talk about hesitancy, like, for me, right, I was having these thoughts. I'm just going to go right back to the beginning. Like, the past few years, right, or the past couple of years, it's all been that negative noise, negative noise. So what did I do? I naturally, like the human body does, because our bodies and our minds are wired to protect us, I'm immediately feeling attacked by all of this. And it's impacting the way that I'm thinking about myself now. I wrote a little piece for my book yesterday that was about the feeling of scoring a goal in a very important soccer game. Okay. If any, I mean, it is the best feeling in the world. Like, I don't know how, there's not many feelings like this. Like, and it could be a teammate that scores it. It doesn't matter. It's like this, like, cry of victory, right? And I always have said, like, I work, so in a soccer game, there's 90 minutes, right? I'm like, and I was an outside midfielder. So were you, Mikey, right?
Yes,
So,
yes, I was.
if you're playing midfield, you don't stop running. Like it is hard work, 90 minutes of hard work. And you could run, up to like what, probably 5 to 10 miles a game, depending, right? It's a lot. You also need to be able to think and stay focused. There's so much to it. But anyways, I always have said this, like I feel like I work like 89 minutes for one moment of spectacular bliss and like excitement, right? Because you just like, you've got that slim chance of scoring the most like epic goal to get your team to the next round of a tournament or something like that. And it is so worth every excruciating moment of the other 89 minutes, right? And I don't even know like how I got here. But the fact that when I was younger and in college and playing and believed that I could do that, right? There was this wholehearted belief of you can do that with your team. You can get on that field and you can make a difference and you can have a blast and work hard and use all your strengths and you can do anything, girl. You can do anything. And today might be the day that you do score that goal. Or it might be the day that it also might be the day that you feel heartbreak and you go home empty-handed, right? Like there's always that outcome too. I don't like to think about that before you go in the game, but like, right, there's always that possibility. But I remember like having this, yes, I can do it mentality. And anytime doubt would creep in, right? Hesitancy, doubt, they're very similar, right? Anytime that like doubt in my ability or doubt in my whatever it was would creep in, I could feel it in a certain like knotted way, like in my chest, if that makes sense. Like everyone feels stressed differently, but I remember that feeling, and then I remember overcoming that feeling. And so I think it's important for us to remind ourselves that we are going to be asked to rise to an occasion. And there might be doubt, there might be hesitancy. At the end of the day, we have to step out on that field and try it, try something and do it, right? Like the hesitancy part that I'm feeling now is much different. Now it's around if I can even go out and get a job. Now, this is silly for me because I know I can do it. Like, old Paige on the soccer field would have been like, you got this, girl, let's go. Like, let's go. You can do it. I've been through some things over the past couple years that have changed the way I think about my ability. And I can look at that and say that's sad, which it kind of is in a way, right? But I can also I could also look at it and learn from it and say, okay, now when you feel that hesitancy in your body, can we identify that as it's either one going to be helpful for me because it is directing me in the right place, right? Like it would be saying like, I don't know if this is the job for you. Like there are some that I'm like, yeah, that's probably not the job for me. But then there are others where it's like a hesitancy that I'm like, no, like try this, like try it out, get on the field, girl, go just get out there, see what happens. And if you come away empty handed, okay. But there's also a chance you go in there and you score big time and you move forward in a big way, you know?
I love it. It's so relatable because I think back to when I was in high school and was on the soccer field, and it was my sophomore year of high school, and our team went undefeated. We were number 8 in the country, I think, and we won the state championship. Wait, was that my sophomore or junior? I don't remember. That's bad of me.
No, don't worry about it. Who was just farming in soccer?
Yeah.
Sorry.
The greatest high school soccer team to ever exist. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's true. Anyway.
Not true. But Brad, you get out of here. But you know what's funny is I remember that team. We felt like we could beat anybody that stepped on the field.
Yes.
Anybody that stepped on the field, we were going to win. We were like, there wasn't any doubt because we knew the players around us. We knew what we had to offer, and like, throw anybody at us, like, we're going to freaking win.
See?
And it's funny because, yes, when you're in high school, you have a lot less worries. You're younger, you're not as mature. But sometimes trying to embrace that today is what's needed. Like, there was no fear back then, with an asterisk, right? Like, some fear, but like, there was no fear in the team that was going to step on that field. There just wasn't. It was like, we're going to win. Like, I can trust the people around me. I can trust myself that what I have to offer as a player and as a team, we're going to smash our opponent. And there wasn't any doubt that crept in. Mm-hmm. And so now when certain life experiences happen, it's almost like trying to get back to that fearless soccer player that stepped onto that field that wasn't going to take no as an answer. And even if you go down 1-0, you're going to come back and win the game.
Right.
Like, that was the belief. Like, that was the belief. And whether it was from a coach or another player on the field, it doesn't matter who, you're going to win. Like, we're going to win. That was the mentality. And I think the same can be true. And I think the same should be true. And as best we can to embody that in our lives, of that younger, fearless, no doubt in our minds. Like, let's bring that back. Let's bring that to the forefront, because even, with my business, I could have said from the beginning, like, I don't know, like, I'm more comfortable just doing my job, getting my paycheck, calling it a day. Right. But that 16-year-old kid would have been like, dude, no, like, you do more than that. Are you kidding me?
Like,
let's go. Come on. Like, go for more.
Yeah.
And even right now, I'm trying to like bring that back and like, let's take the next jump. Like, let's do it. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately.
Did we just pump you up? We started with the question, how do you follow the call? How do you, like, the call to action or your vocation, what you're being called to do? How do you do that? Right. And then we got into, okay, there's noise, there's this, there's that, right? Our bodies, mine and yours, our bodies, if you're listening, you have a chronic condition, or you're a caretaker, like, you've got changes that have happened within a body that are impactful, and we can't ignore that. That's not what we're saying. It's more about this empowerment side of, can we look at the abundance and take a different viewpoint? Right? Like, am I covering that well? Like, yeah.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you guys are speaking to is you guys have had to learn it over the years, but it's adaptability. And speaking on last episode, trusting the process, kind of, I think it's more of that. And, following that calling, trusting the process and remaining adaptable. It sounds like the question to me is like, how do you become, adaptable? And maybe you guys can speak on that. How do you, adapt? When, like, speaking on, channeling your inner child, and you're so flexible and the objective is to win. How do you, you're willing to be adaptable in the game, but how do you channel that? I don't know.
I heard something on a podcast the other day. It was the Lewis Howes podcast, and there was this woman, I don't remember her name. She's this ultra successful, wealthy businesswoman that's like an absolute shark. And she says, which I loved, good things happen to women like me.
Oh.
Only good things happen to women like me. And so Lewis was like kind of asking, well, what do you mean by that? She's like, only good things happen to women like me, or to someone like me. Only good things happen to a girl like me. And it's this unwavering confidence that no matter what, good things are going to happen to her. And I think it hit me differently because I was like, if you go into life with that mentality, to speak to what you're saying, Fred, you can adapt to any situation you're in. Right? She was saying in the podcast how she was one of two women at JP Morgan, this like huge firm, all these jocks and all these men in suits and stuff. And she had this woman that taught her this unwavering confidence. And she tells herself every morning, like, only good things happen to a girl like me.
Mm.
And so when you go through life with that mentality, with this confidence that no matter what, you can adapt, only good things can happen to a person like you. I don't know. That's what struck me.
Yeah, I'm going to add on to that because I think we should speak to also people who have a higher higher limitation. Like when we're talking about, disability, people who are feeling who like, I'm just going to say, right, like have multiple seizures a day, or, you're really in a tough spot right now. You might have exhausted every treatment option that you can, that is out there in Western medicine. You might be feeling like you aren't a success story, right? Like you really might be feeling like, well, there's no way that can be me. And I want to validate, and not in like the newy way of valid. Like I want to like be real about like, you know what? Yes, like we all do have limitations, right? Like I'll give you an example to go back to the soccer field. If you asked me to shoot the ball with my right foot from 18 yards out and hit upper 90, like it's just not possible. If you asked me if I left, I would do it. But we all have limitations, right? We all have certain things that aren't strengths, or an even better one might just be like, maybe I couldn't have been the best defender, but I happened to be really good at another position, right, on the field. So, but I knew what I could be confident in. And then I also recognized, hey, here are some of my, I don't want to say weaknesses, but like my limitations, right? Like in this game. So I'm just going to use the strengths to the best of my ability, right? That's kind of, and it doesn't mean that I can't get better at those limitations. It's just more of that mindset shift for us. That's like, hey, let me put myself out there. Let me go try my best. But if you're at this point where like, I just can't even see a way forward. Like this is real. This is very real. If you're at that point, we've both been there. And maybe not even to the extent of our listeners. Like if you're at a really, really tough point where you're like, I just don't even see how anything can get better. I want you to know that we see you. Like we see that you're struggling, and that's a very real challenge. So we would never say to you, yeah, go get on a soccer field and run for 90 minutes. Like, no, we all I can't even do that anymore. Like we all have those limitations, right? But there is something, I want to encourage you that there is something you can do. There's something that we can shift, whether it's changing your language from I'm stuck in this situation, I'm never going to get out, to a shift into what's one thing I can do today that can, empower me or make me feel like I can do something. Everyone on this, I said that, I'll say it again. Everybody in this world has a purpose, and you are here and valued. And I don't want anyone to ever lose sight of the fact that you don't have a purpose or something meaningful to contribute to this world. So whatever situation you're in might be really hard right now, might feel inescapable, but you do have that coming for you. You just have to actively participate in changing that mentality that Mike was just talking about and saying, nope, only good things, right? Like only good things are okay, sure. You might have a couple negative things. Maybe that's not for everybody, that particular sentence that woman used. But, one thing that I heard the other day that's very similar. You wake up and it's, I receive abundance easily and effortlessly all day, every day, right? Maybe it's something a little different, but just changing that tone so that you can work towards even just doing one thing a day that changes your world just a little bit and builds that confidence just a little bit. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And lastly, I wanted to speak to the noise. This was huge for me a while ago. We talked about noise a lot. There are always going to be people, and it might be people that are very close to you, that doubt, have more fear than you do, to be honest. Like that's very well possible. I know that's happened to me, and it's not because people don't believe in me. It's more of just they don't have the control over my body like I do. And also, I don't always have control over my own body. But in that noise of, let's say, I want to be putting my energy in this place. Like I am being called to do this, or I know I can make one difference in my life today, one change, or like whatever it is, you can do it, but there's noise around you. Maybe there's a doctor telling you you're never going to get better. Maybe there's a friend or a family member that's constantly hounding you, whatever it is, right? This was said, she quoted Brene Brown, she speaks on empowerment for women or all people really. And she quotes Theodore Roosevelt. And I'm going to read this little thing because I think this speaks to our theme today. It's called The Man in the Arena. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. So if I read that too fast, the man in the arena or the woman in the arena, get your hat out there, put your hat in the arena and give something new a try. And in the end, whether you fail or win, you'll have learned something, you'll be moving in a different direction, and you're daring greatly. Again, credit to Brene Brown on that. And Theodore Roosevelt.
I love that. I love that.